Yeah, that's
actually
always
know.
fun when you get to the end of the interview and you're like, hey, I don't know if I ever hit record.
Yeah, what the?
A better life, better vision, what you wanting? Let's make it happen. Time to choose the better story. Come on. Choose the better story. Hey, choose the better story. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, welcome back to another episode of Choose the Better Story podcast. My name's Ryan and I'm the host. This podcast is about vision, mindset, performance, and purpose. And I'm really pumped. I have a longtime friend of mine, Chris Ecklund, joining us on the show today. Chris, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, bro.
Hey, I think before we get into like what you're fully skilled and knowledgeable about, I think it would be beneficial if the world out there got to hear a little bit about our upbringing and our childhood. We've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And I like just to give people context, Chris was a few grades older than me, and each of you who's listening probably have someone that comes to mind when you think of somebody that when you were a kid, you looked up to, you wanted to be like, you thought they were super cool. And for me, that was Mr. Chris Ecklund. And so little things like because Chris was older than me and developing quicker than me, like I would always get his hand-me-down clothes. And I like when I would get those,
So sad.
I I would think I was the coolest guy on the planet because Chris used to wear these and Chris is so stylish. And I remember one year I got my first pair of Air Jordan shoes as hand-me-downs. Who knows how long you'd been wearing those before you handed them down to me, but man, I felt like I was Michael Jordan himself. So lots of really great memories there. I also know that some of my biggest injuries in life came when Chris was present. And I wrote down just a few of them here that I think would be worth talking about.
Oh
So,
gosh.
well, first, before my injuries, let's talk about what my favorite part of going to your house was when we were
Oh,
kids.
yes, what
Two
was
two
it?
things. Two things
Okay.
is one, you had what was the three-wheeler motorcycle thing called?
Oh
A,
yeah, an ATC. I think we had
yeah,
a Honda 110 or something.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I just remember holding on for dear life as you and I were on this thing together. You were
as you
steering
should
me
have.
around and I was just hoping that I came out alive because you were
Yeah,
a wild
yeah.
man in that thing.
That's a reasonable fear.
And then tell us about like we used to play basketball in your
Yeah,
garage. Tell us about
yeah,
the setup we had because that was pretty incredible.
yeah. Yeah, that was so funny as we were recounting that. That was one of my favorite things, being young. So one of my other friends, dad's was like this really mechanically inclined guy. He's just like he just like understood all these things and very creative. And so before the days of like these actual small hoops that you could buy and that had breakaway rims and springs on all of them, my buddy's dad thought of, hey, if you get those buckets from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, those kind of little worker trash can things, and you just cut the top off like that top section and then just bolt it to a board. You've got your DIY breakaway rim at your house. So that's what we had. We had the plastic rim bolted to, a tube or a plywood thing in the garage.
That's right. And we had the mini
Yeah, that was
basketball
it.
hoop, and
Mini
we turned
basketball
that
hoop.
place into a gym. Yeah,
Hmm.
I remember you were always able to jump higher than me. You were more athletic than me. And so, and
That
because you
didn't
were
last
older,
long.
like me actually trying to like go to the rim in the garage just was a losing battle, so I would tend to try to shoot from the outside. And I remember one time I hit the light bulb and it exploded and went all over the garage. I remember I felt so bad about that.
Yeah, just good memories.
Yeah, but let's talk
But
about my two biggest injuries. I'll talk about the least of
yeah,
them, and then let's get to the one that hurt the most. I don't know who was influenced by Satan when they created a skateboard that was made out of metal. But somehow my
metal.
parents
I
got
remember that
me
thing.
a skateboard that was made out of metal, and that didn't last very long just because the shape of it was just not very rideable. And
Yeah,
so I had this metal skateboard, and you and I were into skating just for a little bit.
yeah,
And so I remember one day I had you over. I had a mini basketball hoop at my place too. We used to play in our garage. I don't know if you remember that. So we were probably just taking a break from playing hoops, and
Hmm.
we started a skateboard on our newer skateboards around my old metal skateboard. Again, who in the world created that?
Yep.
And my
Yep. Yep.
brother,
Yep.
doing things that little brothers do, thought it would be fun. He was in the ski boat next to where we were skateboarding, and he threw out
Okay.
a ski rope, and you and I basically both tripped over the ski rope at the same time as we were circling around the metal skateboard. And you tripped, and your foot hit the back end of the metal skateboard at the same time that my face was crumbling down on the front end of the metal skateboard. And the combination there just, oh, I mean, this metal skateboard just slapped me in the eye as,
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. And I remember that thing just
Yeah.
puffed up immediately. I had the worst black eye for a
Did
long
you get
time.
cut? Wasn't
Yeah,
there
in
a
fact, if
cut
you look
there?
closely, you can
Yeah.
still see a cut. Yeah, it was cut.
That was
It
scary.
swelled up immediately. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really painful. But that one didn't hurt as bad as this other one. We were out. We would take you out on our boat every once in a while on the lake, and
Uh-huh.
and I remember one time we were out on the lake together, and
Hmm.
my brother's kind of a showboat, kind of
A little bit.
fearless. And
Yep.
back in the day, we would double ski. I think if you did that nowadays, you'd probably get beat up at the lake. I don't think people do that anymore.
They don't allow that
But
anymore.
but my brother just launched one day on double skis, and I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna let my brother outdo me with Chris in the
Yeah.
boat, like this guy that I look up to. And
Yeah.
so what do is I go out on double skis, and I'm like, I'm gonna show my brother up, and I'm telling you, I took to the wake like none other. Total reckless abandon. I just launched. I went so high and I went so far, and the only problem with the landing was the tips of my skis were the first things to hit the water.
Oh
And
no.
I just face planted so bad. I mean,
Oh,
it was like I probably almost knocked myself out. And I just remember
I
I
would
was
think.
dazed and confused, and I crawled back. I crawled back into the boat with a bloody nose.
Oh, no way.
And
It was that bad.
oh man, yeah. And I was just so humiliated because I wasn't wanting to be outdone by my little brother in front of Chris, but my pride, man, my pride got to me, and that
Oh
was
my
probably the
gosh.
worst injury in front of you I can remember. Do you have any like funny memories from our childhood?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, let me just say that it makes me really sad that that I ended up being your clothes hand-me-down guy because I did not have good clothes. So, and I
What
was
do you
never in style. So by the time they got to you, gosh, they were probably 10 years outdated. So that was a
No
bummer for
way.
you.
Oh, they were such a
Um,
gift.
the one that came to my mind as I was thinking about this last night that I mentioned to you was there was one birthday. I don't remember when it was. It was maybe around 10 years old. And we were not rolling in the cash, but I wanted to go to Scandia. It was like this kind of amusement park thing. So it was fairly novel at the time. Of course, they're probably everywhere now, these sorts of things. So it
Yep.
had like the go-karts and this and that and the other, right? Mini golf, all that stuff. So my parents said, you can invite one friend to go. So I was like, great, Ryan, right, invite Ryan to go out. It'll be great. We'll have a good time. And so the day comes, birthday comes. I'm excited. We head over to pick you up, and of course, being the kid, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get my birthday present. We're gonna get there. I'll get my birthday present. It'll be fun, and then we'll go. Well, we get there and we pick you up, and you get in, and no birthday present. I was like, did he forget the birthday present? Is the birthday present inside? There's 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 no mention of the birthday present. What's happening here? So all day I'm wondering, well, maybe the birthday present's back home. Maybe he's going to give it to me when we get back home. But, come to find out, I don't know that the fact that it was my birthday ever got communicated from my parents to your parents. So I don't think that ever got cycled through the communication lines, and there was no birthday present. So
Oh, man.
this was, of course, a 10-year-old's like worst nightmare, right? The things that you remember. We had this whole fun day at Scandia playing and hanging out, and all I could focus on was, where's my birthday present?
Yeah, man, you chose the wrong friend to go with you to Scandia, I'll tell you that right
So
now.
bad.
Yeah, we typically wouldn't be the type that would not give a birthday present. So it must have been we that
Yeah.
wasn't communicated. But I'm
Oh, I'm
sorry, man.
certain of it.
I mean that
Deep
this was
wounds.
years
Deep,
and years ago. So man, I just want to
deep.
say I'm sorry. That's that sounds like it scarred you. Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you
Yeah.
grew up, a little bit about your family.
So I grew up as a pastor's kid, actually. My dad was a pastor as long as I can remember. Early in his career, he did some teaching at high school, believe it or not, but
Hmm.
for the duration of his career, he was in the ministry. So our early childhood was actually in San Jose, California. And then when I was 8 years old, we moved up to Northern California in Paradise. So we were there since I was eight, and
Yeah.
then that was through all of childhood, and my parents were there even into some of my early adulthood, post college. So great memories of growing up there. Very thankful for time there, friends there. Obviously, there's a few people that I still keep in touch with. School for me was down in Southern Cal. So did school down in Southern Cal. Then early work life was back in the Bay Area, actually,
Hmm.
more the East Bay area. So Pleasanton, Dublin, kind of that area of the San Francisco Bay Area. Uh, then then did a stint in Santa Barbara for 15 years. Worked there, did some stuff there. Then we've been out here in North Carolina, actually now near Chapel Hill. We've been here for just over 4 years. Yeah. So and
Okay.
so in the family stuff, yeah, grew up in the church, dad in the ministry the whole way through. So the thing I typically tell people is with pastors' kids, you either get like the goody two shoes kids or the kid that is like crazy, right? Goes off the deep end.
Like the
And
two extremes. Yeah.
exactly. That's like you get these whack jobs on one end or the other. And I tended to be more on this end of the whack job spectrum, but mostly the goody two-shoe thing was because I think I was just too afraid to get in trouble. It wasn't because I was good. I was just too afraid to get in trouble. But my parents did a great job raising us, and we had good relationship with the church. My sister and I still love Jesus and follow Jesus, have all of our lives, and so
Hmm.
I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for being able to grow up in the church, getting to
Yeah.
know Jesus early, and Him saving me from a lot of pain and hurt over the course of my life, not having to have the crazy testimony story.
Right. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. That's good. And so tell us a little bit about like after high school, where you went to school and maybe
yeah.
why you did that. Why did you pursue the field that you're in?
After high school, I went to Westmont College down in Santa Barbara. So it's a small private Christian school, about 1,200 kids. I actually went there because I just followed my sister, quite frankly, and I did
Hmm.
the same thing with my major to some degree. So I had like I got decent grades in high school, so I had a few options, but in the end, I actually only put in my application to Westmont. I didn't apply to anywhere else. I just kind of assumed that I would get in. Thank the Lord I did, because that would have been bad if I didn't. I actually did consider going to Simpson.
Hmm.
I don't know if I ever told you this. Did I tell you this?
No, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I actually had an application, I had it filled out, and my thinking was if I go to Simpson, it'll be to play basketball. But I was bad at basketball, and when I came to
That's not
terms with that,
true.
I thought, one, if I go to Simpson only to play basketball, this is probably not a good reason since I'm bad at basketball. And if I go there and don't make the team, this is going to be worse. So maybe I shouldn't do that. So I followed my sister to Westmont, and then I fell into kinesiology was my major for the same reason. I just thought there was nothing else I was interested in. So it was kind of by default that I chose
Hmm.
it. She had done it, and I was like, I'm just kind of interested in sports, but I don't really know why. And it wasn't until my sophomore year that I started to put together my love for the stuff, which was when I had anatomy. And that
Okay.
was the first subject really in my life, the first class that I actually loved. And that I think probably began my love relationship with learning. So that started connecting some of the dots. And then, over the course of time, I started to realize that I loved human movement, which, I know we'll probably get to it at some point, but
Yeah.
which was my fascination with Michael Jordan, and watching him move, right? And then trying to go practice my little dunks on my 7 foot rim or
Right.
6 foot, whatever it was in the garage.
Yeah.
So there was a fascination with human movement that I started to piece together. Like, oh, that's why I liked watching great athletes all of those years. It was that. I just had this love for it that took me until sophomore year in college to figure out.
So before we go any further, because you brought Jordan up,
Yeah,
um,
little
I feel
segue.
like we need to talk about this real quick. This is either going to increase the amount of followers that you and I have, or it's going to decrease it. I don't know, but
Yeah.
um, there's a big debate. I'm seeing it all the time. I see it when I go on Instagram. I see it when I go on TikTok. I even see it every once in a while when on Facebook. Um, a big debate on who the GOAT of basketball is. And people are always, it's always between Jordan and right now it's LeBron.
hmm
And can we just settle that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we can settle it. It's Jordan. It's pretty simple.
Okay. There
Next
we go.
topic.
Yeah, said and done. And
Yeah.
I'll wholeheartedly agree with that. Very good. Those of you that have been listening to the podcast, you know that I'm a big believer in like five foundational principles in life. You got faith, family, finances, fitness, and fun. And so, because of Chris's expertise in his field, we're probably going to be spending a majority of the time today focusing on the fitness aspect, which is really important. Obviously, health, our health is really important. Hopefully, it's important to you that are listening. And so, we're going to kind of dive into some questions related to fitness. So let's talk about. I know you said you just mentioned it very briefly, but you told us there was a little window of time that you were running a fitness gym or a club in Santa Barbara. How
Yeah.
did you find your way into that? And maybe what are some
Yeah.
things that you learned, like the good and the bad and the ugly from being in the industry there in Santa Barbara?
So I had a brick and mortar gym from 2009 until I left and sold it in 2021. So we were
Okay,
still like tail end of the pandemic there.
sure.
Um, the course of my career has kind of been gym world and education. Those have been kind of the themes. So I was in the gym as a trainer early on in my career, then started to do some strength and conditioning stuff for some various places. Then found my way into education, which I really enjoyed and do enjoy. And then this was all in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then moved
Yeah,
down to Santa Barbara, started over, and so the path into the brick and mortar was essentially when I got to Santa Barbara, I just was trying to find work. And so I was doing primarily education and a little bit of training in the Bay Area. And when I got to Santa Barbara, the quickest way for me to make money was just to flip-flop that. And I could just plug into a few places and see if I could pick up some clients and go.
yeah,
And so I was an independent contractor, 1099 in a few places, like a private studio, a PT clinic, and there may have been another one or two in there. It was all good at the beginning and was gradually growing my clientele, was developing relationship with some of these places. And it was a little bit of a waiting game to see kind of who was going to head in the direction that I was hoping to, multiple conversations in there. And one of the places said that they were heading in a direction I thought, this sounds really good. It sounds like they want to develop this big performance center. They wanted me to be a part of that. Great. But after a few years, I realized it was not trending that way anymore, and they were actually bringing in other people from the outside to help them move in
mm,
these directions, and I
yeah,
was getting pushed further and further out. So at that point, it was okay. Well, nobody's really going in the direction I was hoping to go, and I'm not really a part of any of these things. So what do I do now?
yeah,
And I would say at that point in my life, for probably 5 or 10 years, I was feeling some little pushes, little nudges from God to maybe do some business stuff at some point. And I had kind of done some side businesses here and there,
hmm
um, just just little extra things outside of my full-time job. And so at that point, I started thinking, well, maybe should I start a business? Like, what do I do now? I don't know what to do. So praying, thinking, and so one of my brilliant ideas was I had this client who was a very successful entrepreneur, godly man, respected him. And so I
Hmm.
thought, I'm gonna sit down with him and have a conversation with him. So I asked him out to lunch. We sit down, and I says, "Hey man, I've got some questions about business." And side note, he actually was like, "Oh, whew, I'm glad that we're talking about this. I thought you were going to fire me as a client," because he was a total sucker. Every time I would train him, like he and this other guy would almost wreck the clinic. They would like be hitting balls around the gym and what have you. So he was relieved it was a business conversation. Anyway, so I said, no, 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 no. You're okay. I want to talk about business. So said I'm feeling like God's nudging me in this direction. It's 2009. We're still kind of in the middle of this, economic
Yeah.
recession, this downturn. This is a bad idea, right? I should not start a business right now, right? And he says,
Looking for some
no.
affirmation.
Exactly. I'm trying to lead him into that one. I think I was probably nodding at him like this, and he says, "Oh no, Chris, this is great. Matter of fact, I was just talking with Bill, his friend, and another one of my clients. I was just talking with Bill last night about how can we get Chris to start his own business." And
Oh
right there,
no.
I thought, "Oh no, here we go." So as there should be, I think in most situations, there were multiple situations, multiple affirmations that God wanted me to start a business. So for me, starting the business was not really a goal of mine, a big objective. It was more of an act of obedience.
Hmm.
So he helped me do it. He owned some commercial real estate, got me in a 975 square foot space to start in
Yeah.
downtown Santa Barbara in
Wow.
2009 in November 2009 and we went for it. So the business is still in operation. My business partner Peter Bloomer is still running it. Hats
Hmm.
off to him. He's doing a fantastic job. And I'm so grateful that he took it over and that I was able to hand off the reins to him.
What are some things that you learned? Maybe your biggest takeaways, either good things or difficult things, just from like running your own business there in Santa Barbara.
There are a lot. I'll do a few on the front end. And I think quite frankly, I'm still in a place of asking God, why did you have me do that thing? And what did you want me to take away from that thing? But there are some things I feel like were were good for me and important to know, and that one of them is being obedient to the Lord, right?
Hmm.
It is just being obedient to the Lord, and that doesn't always mean that being obedient to the Lord is not going to be an easy thing. It may not be quick, and it could be a long haul. It could be a really long haul. And that's how it was. It was a long 12-year grind.
Yeah.
There were times where it was easier to breathe and there was more breathing room, but it was a hard grind the
Yeah.
whole way. And so that I think that was a good learning lesson for me. I didn't have a business background. I didn't know what in the world I was doing. We did not get business coaches soon enough. We should have, but I was trying to ask people that were good business people as much as I could, learn as fast as I could while we were walking through it. I was just a trainer guy, just a kines guy. It was a good lesson to me about business. Business is tough. Finding and developing a good business is tough. And I think over the course of my life, I've realized people that do good business work their butts off. Some of them do it for a really long time, and some of them fail multiple times before they
Yeah.
hit the big one, and it looks like they're an overnight success, but in point in fact, they really grinded for a long time. So
Yeah.
the grind is real. It's hard and it's not fun most of the time. It's hard. And you find fun things in it, right? But it's a big, long grind. And you got to be ready for that. So that was another one that was a good lesson for me. I would say a couple other quick ones that pop into my mind are it was a great humbling experience for me
Hmm.
because it didn't turn out nearly as good as I thought it was going to. I wanted it to be this big, great performance center, and it was just meager. We were barely making it. We were hurting for so long. I couldn't really pay myself for
Yeah.
about 4 years. It was really hard and humbling. And
Mm.
there were a lot of people that came around me and supported me that I needed because I was on the brink of burnout for 5 years and I was barely hanging on. So having the support of a lot of people was huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do now.
So I am back in the field, which I'll circle back to in a second. But I'm in the field again in North Carolina as of late last summer, really. I was kind
Okay.
of toying around with the idea for about 6 months, and then about 6 months ago, I committed to being in the field. So in the field again, after doing some market research out here in North Carolina, I felt like for me, there's kind of two options. I could continue to do training because my background's strength and conditioning, corrective exercise, that sort of thing, personal
Yeah.
training. But about 10 years ago, I got a manual therapy license. So I got my massage therapy license and have been doing both at the same time. So here I was trying to figure out which way should I go? And I felt like out here, after doing some market research, the manual therapy as the primary was probably the best niche for me because the stuff that I do is fairly unique here. There's
Mm.
very few people. Matter of fact, I think there's only maybe two or three that I found in the whole Raleigh Research Triangle area
Oh, wow.
that do what I do. And so I thought, I think that's going to be a better route to go. Even if I do think I'm unique as a trainer, there's a number of them out here, and so I don't want to fight that battle right now. So manual therapy is kind of my primary, and then sort of corrective exercise under that. And then really I'm just meeting people where they are. So some people reach out to me because they do want training, but the majority of people are reaching out to me for manual therapy. So I started doing that on my own, no brick and mortar, just myself and my therapy table in home. And then I looked for partners where I could just like gyms or what have you, where I could partner with them if they didn't have a therapist,
Yeah.
just connect with them, be their therapist. And that actually took a while here to find
Hmm.
some good places to land. But I'm actually in one of the facilities that I partnered with now. It's called Carolina Longevity. So it's a concierge medical business where they do longevity medicine, and so they've got medical. They've got manual therapy, they've got training, they've got nutrition. So those are kind of the four big blocks and rocks that they deal with for people. And so it ended up being a great place for me to land. And so the majority of my clients I'm starting to see here, and then I'm still doing some stuff in home.
Just for the fun of it, I mean, I'm in the solar industry and usually a lot of
Mm,
stuff on social media. I mean, my feed is just filled with everything related to solar. Every once in a
yeah,
while, I'll come across a video where I see somebody and in my mind when I see it, I'm just like, no, 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 don't say that. Because it's either misleading or it's just flat out not true.
yeah.
Do you ever see stuff on social media, like as a professional that's been doing things for as long, whether it be exercise or fitness or like suggestions or advice? Do you ever see stuff on social media that you're like, no, 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 that's
Yeah,
actually going to harm people, not help them?
every day. I
Yeah.
think I think uh I'm doing a better job at only looking at things that I think are valuable. My focus time on my social media. So however the algorithms work, I think I see less and less of that stuff, but it's constant. And I think probably the hardest thing for me to watch right now isn't necessarily the morons that are hurting people because I don't see as much of that in my feeds now. It's um, the clickbait stuff. It's
Mm.
like, okay, you could do that exercise, but dude, like, come on. That exercise is only applicable to, small percentage of people. And the only reason that you put that on social media is because it looks cool and will get people to follow you because it's fun to watch. But the actual practicality of that thing and who that who that will be good for is extremely low. There's just very few people that that's going to help. So that's probably my biggest pet peeve at this point is seeing that sort of thing. Just a clickbait goofball. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not gonna help that many people. Yeah.
So let's talk about like the typical gym rat because I go to a gym myself and
Yeah.
I mean, I see the same faces all the time. Usually the people that are committed to the gym, you see them there regularly.
Yeah.
Like just for the fun of it, what are some like common mistakes you see people that, go to the gym on a regular basis? What are some common mistakes you see people making at the gym that they don't even realize might be detrimental or even harmful to them?
I I would say at this point in my career, I don't see a lot of things that are actually really harmful. Some of them, yeah, like I do see some of that, but I think at this point in my career, as I was a member of a gym for probably 6 months out here, um, and and same thing, right? Watching the same guys every day, same people in there every day. Most people are actually doing some pretty good things.
Hmm.
Granted, their form and their technique may not be on point, but they're moving and they're
Yeah.
getting stronger and it's good. So there's a lot of people are doing some good things. And I'm a huge fan of, that concept of motion's lotion. Like
Hmm.
move, play, do stuff. It may
Right.
not be perfect, but for the most part, it's good. I think the things that I view as challenging or hurdles for most people that become problematic are one of them is right. We're doing this early January, this podcast, and so of course, what's happening right now? The gyms are filling up, right?
All
And
the New
they'll
Year's
and
resolutions
yeah, all those guys, and they're going to be empty by March
by
1st
March.
again. Yeah, it's just right. Everybody's going
Yeah,
to be
this is the worst
gone.
time of year for parking at the gym.
Yeah, for the regulars, it's awful.
Yeah.
January and February are just awful. Um, and why does that happen, right? Why are people out so quickly? Well, this is one of the problems I see, the mistakes that I see most people make is they attack the gym thing or the fitness thing with a physiological goal in mind instead of a
Hmm.
behavior goal in mind.
Hmm.
So they go, well, I know I got to be there 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week to make the dent, to drop the 10 pounds or the 5 pounds or whatever I gained over the holidays or last year. So
Yeah.
I gotta do that to do make the physiology change,
Sure.
the body recomposition. The reality is there's no way that they're going to stick with that. It's way too big of a life change to make for most people like that. They can't make that habit change. So,
Hmm.
I've got a couple people right now doing that. I have a couple people that meet with me once a week. Are they getting a huge physiological benefit from that? No. Are they getting some? Yes. But I don't care so much about that. Right now it's about build the habit. Let's start with one. And then after we get into, 8, 12 weeks, something like that, let's look at two. And so I think that's one of the big ones I see that's a major hurdle for most people is be reasonable. I can't remember if we've talked about this, but the idea of mini habits or atomic habits or
Yeah.
uh, just the concept of behavior change. If you start with that small thing, get that thing going, be consistent with it 90% of the time. When you can do that on a regular basis and you're not thinking about it, it's not difficult anymore, great. Add the next thing.
Right.
So I think that if people would do that in the gym, they would have much greater longevity and with the greater longevity comes much greater physiological benefit than what they're trying to do in the short term. So, it's that whole by the yard, it's hard, but inch by inch, it's a cinch. It's the little things on the regular basis. That's a big one. The other big one I'll say, I'll give a male one and a female one, okay? Because
Okay.
I've seen this over the course of my career. The male one, as you can guess, is lifting too much weight. So it's male stupidity, it's testosterone driven stupidity. And I've made this mistake multiple times in my life, right?
Yeah.
So preaching to the choir here. There's a few big reasons research shows us why people get hurt. And one of them is poor progression. And that's what guys do. They go lift too much weight too fast and they get hurt, and then you're screwed, right? So don't do that. Logical
I'm just
progression.
laughing. I'm laughing alongside you because yeah,
Yeah.
guys, guys, guys are dumb and
Yes.
they're also competitive and because they're
Yeah.
competitive, they'll put themselves in really dumb circumstances, and they'll cave
Yeah.
to peer pressure.
Yeah.
I've got a guy at my work that blew out both of his hamstrings because he lifted with another buddy at work that works on his legs almost daily,
Okay.
and just his pride was like, no, I'm going to keep up with this guy, and he shot
Wow.
both of his hamstrings doing so, and
Yeah.
he was in pain for a long time. He couldn't even walk around. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just our own pride.
Yeah. It's a guy thing. That's like the competitive thing is great, right? I mean, use
Yeah.
that to your advantage and like I see that one of my clients does group training. He specifically does group training because the competitive nature of getting the workout done with
Yeah.
his buddies and great. You do that in a format in a way that is healthy for you.
Hmm.
But yeah, just using some common sense, which of course common sense is not so common. 10% a week is actually a decent physiological number that's in the books. But the longer you've trained, 10% a week is actually absolutely out of reach. It comes down to like 0.5% a week
Yeah.
or even less than that.
Sure.
So if you're progressing more than 10% a week as a beginner, stop doing that. Cut it back. It's too much. The female one that I see is on the mobility, the flexibility into the spectrum. So got, this is generic, of course. It doesn't always work out this way, and there's people in the middle of the spectrum, but we like to do what we're good at. Guys tend to be better, like they tend to be stiff and immobile and tight and better at strength stuff. So they don't stretch, they
Mm.
lift. Women oftentimes don't tend to be as strong or stable, and they tend to be more mobile. So what do they love? Pilates and yoga. And
Yeah.
so they'll go do that and they'll just have at it, and not always great. Matter of fact, I've had multiple clients come in over the past couple weeks and go, "Oh man, my hamstrings are tight or my hips are really tight." And I'll measure them and I'll say, "No, you actually have 80, 90% of the range that orthopedically you're supposed to have. They're not tight." But they think they need to do the splits in order to be loose. Not true.
Yeah.
And so if you have excessive range of motion, having excessive range of motion is just as bad as having no range of motion, right?
Yeah.
It's not that in the middle place. So excessive range of motion can lead to other injuries, just like immobility can lead to injuries. So just going and stretching and overdoing that because you're good at it doesn't mean that you're going to feel great either. So I'll give you those. Those are kind of my big ones.
Let's talk about the guy at the gym that is grunting really, really hard, and
Yes.
he's grunting in such a way that he wants everyone to hear. What can be done about that?
So my response to that is nothing can be done. If that's a problem for you, go to Planet Fitness. There's no grunting, there's no dropping weights. That's the home for you because you
Okay.
have you have the muscle heads, the knuckle heads in the gyms who want everybody to look at them.
Seems like every gym has at least one or two of them, and
They
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 know how to
have to.
grunt. They got the attention. Why
Yeah.
don't you tell us a little bit about like who do you work with? Like who like describe your ideal client.
Yeah, that took me a long time to define because initially it was just like I work with everybody, but this is not a good business practice to say that. It doesn't work real well. And so it took me a long time to define who that was and what I landed on back then, which was, 15, 20 years ago, is still who it is now. It's typically people that are beat up or know enough ahead of time to not want to get beat up, and it's oftentimes people that want to learn and do the process well.
Yeah.
So the quick fix people, the people that they want to get the six pack abs, like those muscle head guy, like I've never jived well with those people. The people that seek me out, and so age wise, goal wise, it's been this wide spectrum of people, which is why it was
Hmm.
so hard for me to figure out who am I training? Because I would have an 8-year-old, I'd have an 80-year-old, I'd have a college athlete,
Yeah.
I'd have a high school athlete, I'd have men, I'd have women. I had all it, but that's who it ended up being was those sort of folks. And right now, so my clients right now are typically they're in their 40s to 80s. And they're
Okay.
people, it's those people. So am I working with any athletes? I'm not working with any athletes really right now. It's primarily people who want to be out of pain, that are beat up, that maybe have seen some other people and haven't been able to figure it out. and just kind of don't know what to do, or have seen some other trainers and are not that the trainers couldn't really quite figure out how to progress them because they're in pain. So it's oftentimes those people.
So I work in a highly competitive industry. The solar industry is
Yeah,
really competitive. There's there's plenty of companies out there that are trying to take advantage, especially here in California.
yeah.
And it occurs to me that the field that you're in is also highly competitive as well.
Yeah.
How would you say you differentiate yourself from the competition?
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one after I share. But I'll give you a quick story on this one. Moved to Santa Barbara, 2006. Did some market research when I got into town, and I heard from a couple people who were tangentially involved in the fitness industry, and they said, "Do not do personal training in Santa Barbara. Don't do it."
Hmm.
There's a million trainers in Santa Barbara. So, Santa Barbara's a pretty wealthy area,
Yeah,
affluent area. There was a personal training studio and gym on every corner. It's kind of like the restaurant business, right?
yeah.
There's tons of restaurants in Santa Barbara because obviously it's a destination location. But because there's money there, there's trainers, there's massage therapists, there's chiropractors, there's all these sorts of luxury service sorts of folks. And so that was the advice that I got. And my response to that was, yeah, but there aren't trainers who know what they're doing, eh, or who either don't know what they're doing or don't have integrity or don't have both of those things.
Yeah.
That was kind of where my mind was at back then. So, there aren't a lot of good trainers who really know if they are good. Who knows if they've got integrity, or if they have
Hmm.
integrity, maybe they're a good person, but they're brand new to the field and they don't
Yeah.
have a lot of know-how of what they're doing. So what I felt like I was bringing was both of those things. I had some know-how and I had some integrity and I could care well for people.
Hmm.
And in the end, that those two things have been it. That's what I've really hung my hat on, those two things of knowing what I'm doing and caring well for people and having good character and integrity. And sadly, you can build a business off of those things. It shouldn't be that way.
Oh man, I
It
hear
shouldn't
you.
be that
I hear
way.
you.
But
Yep.
that's kind of what I hung my hat on. And then yes, there's the nuances of business. So like I said, I did my market research here and I was like, do I do strength and conditioning? Do I do corrective exercise, a personal training? Do I do manual therapy? What do I call myself as a manual therapist? So yes, I mean you have to you've got to figure out your niche and who specifically your market's going to be and who you want to serve so you can go after those people, which I'm always trying to figure out and get better at. And to those ends, specifically here, that's what I did is I looked at what businesses were out there. I looked at the qualifications. I looked at what sort of manual therapists were here. I looked at what sort of manual therapy they did,
Yeah.
what locations they were, what kind of radius I'd be fighting with these different businesses. And then based on those two things, I landed on manual therapy as the backbone, and then continue to be who I am and what happens when you care for people. You meet their needs and and you care about the person and develop good relationship with them so that they know that you mean more to them than a paycheck because they actually are somebody that you care about,
Yeah.
then they refer people to you and your business grows. It's a pretty simple
Imagine that.
process that takes time, right? Like
Yeah.
I said, with Prevail is a long, long, long grind. But that's it.
Yeah.
That's how I got that's how I decided. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would agree with you that sadly it is that easy. If you just care for people well and have a desire to serve them and you're a person of integrity, like you'll find in this world you'll rise to be the cream of the crop. It's crazy how simple it is, but unfortunately there's just not a lot of people that
Yeah.
Integrity is just not a big deal to them. They're
Yeah.
just in it for a big paycheck, or
Yeah.
it's self motivated. And there's nothing wrong with, like, being in business to get paid. But in my particular industry, yeah, I see people, they can tend to just be vultures that want to
Yes.
just to get rich at other people's expense.
Right.
And I've just felt like, actually having the mindset of serving people has done me a lot better service. And I feel good about myself doing that.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's crazy. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I mean, it's a simple approach. You're
Yeah.
just going to love the people that are in front of you, and you're going to serve them well.
Yeah.
And then as you provide value, they're going to keep coming back and referring other people. Like, to me,
Yeah.
that's the way to build a business. So well done on that.
The one other thing that I'll layer in on that is something that you and I have talked a fair amount about, and we've already talked about today, is the grind.
Hmm.
Are
Yeah.
you willing to stay in it and continue to do the work when it's awful, when they're not coming as quickly as they should, when you're failing, which, right, I have multiple times,
Yeah.
as you know, and and when it just is not fun, are you going to continue to do it to build the thing? Um, because then that's the other piece, right? You have people that won't do the work.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, success to me is standing after failure, after failure, after failure, and continuing to go. To me, that's what success is. I mean, success isn't built overnight. It's stacked failure on top of failure on top of failure. Assuming you learn from each failure. If you don't learn from it,
Right.
then that's your own fault. But failure's there to be the greatest lesson to teach us in life. That way we can grow and learn for the next opportunity. So, strength or cardio? What's more
Oh yeah.
important, strength or cardio?
So this is a little bit of a painful one for me. Um, if you asked me 10 years ago, probably even 5 years ago, I would have said strength. My reasoning behind that is because I felt like the health industry did such a bad job of overemphasizing cardio since the 60s and 70s, right? When jogging and aerobics got big. They did that so much to the extent that in the 80s and 90s, physical therapy business actually went through the roof because everybody had been jogging so much and not lifting weights that they had knee problems and back problems and feet problems and and oops, oh, that wasn't so great.
Yeah.
So I felt my response in to that question in saying strength was a reaction to the overshoot of the industry, 20, 30 years ago. Now, the information that's coming out, I would say some of this, of course, depends on how you're looking at it, what lens you're looking through. But if you're looking at it through we'll call it the longevity of life lens, which is a popular term right now, what a lot of people are talking about, I mean, that's a fun word. It's a marketing word. I would simply look at it through the lens of quality of life while you're here, caring for your body while, caring for the tool and the gift that we've been given so that, you can do what you've been created to do for the time that you're here
Yeah.
lens. Cardio is a little bit more important than strength. And so I think, health-wise, longevity-wise, cardio's here, strength is here.
Hmm.
But it's not like this. Cardio, what we're seeing right now in the research is a little bit more important for longevity and overall wellness than strength is. But strength is up there. And so I keep pushing that because I think we're still in this phase where everybody's just do cardio, just do cardio. No, 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 being strong is important too. You've got to make sure that you're staying strong for bone density, right?
Yeah.
For independence later in life.
Hmm.
So I'll still probably continue to push strength just because I don't think we've leveled out yet, even though the physiology is going to say cardio.
If you could identify one, maybe the most underrated form of exercise that you think yields people the greatest benefits, what would you say that exercise would be?
Are you speaking of like a strength activity or a cardiovascular activity or?
Maybe one of each. What do you think is like the
Mm,
most
mm.
underrated that provides the biggest benefit to people?
Um, I would say for strength, it would probably have to be some sort of structural lift, like a squat, some sort of a squat. I think when you lose the ability to squat a lot of things go wrong.
Mm,
Your ability to get up and down off the ground, your ability to walk, your ability to go up and down stairs, your ability to carry things, a lot of things go bad. So if you can't squat well and with some strength, you're gonna have some problems coming.
mm,
With cardio, cardio's tough. This is going to be a personal opinion, but I would say sprinting can, and I'll reframe that and not say cardio, I'll say conditioning.
okay.
If people can keep sprinting and moving fast for longer, I think it's fantastic. And that to me is because I mean, I think you get a lot of benefit from sprinting just in general because you can, improve your VO2. You have typically have less joint impact. If you can sprint, or I'll even just say run fast, if you can do that on a regular basis, you typically have pretty healthy hamstrings, groin, glutes, and you can keep playing. And a lot of people, look forward to retiring and playing, and then they get to retire and they can't play because they're a mess. So tennis
Hmm.
goes out the window, golf goes out the window,
Yeah.
softball goes out the window. You just lose the ability to play.
It's funny because when you say your answer surprised me, by the way, because I thought your answer would have been more on the alignment of just going on a walk. Because I've heard
Mm,
there's lots of great benefits just from walking. But
absolutely.
everything you said makes sense. It's funny because, as you get older and I'm getting older, man, I can remember being a kid and seeing my grandpa run fast. And
Mm.
it wasn't a picture of beauty. It wasn't graceful, but he did it.
Yeah.
We were playing and he just took off running and I was just like, okay, I did not expect that.
Yeah.
Um, and now my mindset is, I wonder what people would think if they saw me sprinting. Wonder how awful that would look. But yeah, that does make sense. So okay, so
Mm.
for strength, squats are really important. It's highly
Yeah,
underrated.
some
And when you're
structural.
saying squats, you're just talking about like body weight squats. I'm assuming. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, if we're talking about strength, I would say at whatever level of strength that you have. So
Okay.
for you, body weight squats is not helpful, really, right?
Hmm.
You have to have some load because you're a strong person. For some people, body weight squats might be a strength pattern for them at this point.
Yeah.
So wherever it is, right? Once again, back to that progression question, wherever you are, for you, that's going to be warm up. For other people, that's going to be their actual strength stuff.
Sure.
And this could go into do you do bilateral squatting or unilateral squatting? Great. That's another question, but squat is going to
Hmm.
be the main thing. I do tend to lean, especially as people age, I do tend to lean more towards unilateral squatting. I think it's safer. So you don't have to front squat, you don't have to back squat, you don't have to, double leg press, do a single leg thing. You can usually lift a lot of weight and it's just really hard to hurt your back, which is what a lot of people get scared of, as they get older.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice on that one. And I would say to your point, um, walking is great. I think you get back to the place of thinking movement is
Yeah.
the key. Like you've got to move.
Hmm.
So absolutely walking is fantastic. I mean, if people aren't doing anything, I will say this, most of the benefit in exercise that we've seen in the research goes from doing nothing to something. So if
Hmm.
you're not doing anything, yeah, go walk.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's probably where your greatest benefit will be, is in the walking thing. But as far as, what's underrated, I think looking through the lens of longevity, I think like most people want to be able to play. And if you can't run, you're losing a lot of play. So that's why I said that. That's personal
Yeah.
opinion. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
I've got a lot of good research back behind that.
Things in life are always changing. I can remember, when I was just starting to be a parent, it was very like research indicated that you needed to have your baby laying a certain way when they're in their crib.
Mm,
Um, and then it's switched to, oh no, don't have them on their back, have them on their stomach. And it'll switch back. No, but put them back on their back. No, put them on their
yeah,
side. In the solar
right.
industry, oh man, it's all about ownership of the panels. And now it's like, no, it's all about non-ownership. Just like switch the bill. It's like it goes back and forth. And I would
Yeah.
imagine in your, 30 years of spending time in your field, you've probably seen things like take a major swing from, when you
Yeah.
first started to where it is now. Like, what have been
Yeah.
some of the major changes you've seen in your industry?
Well, one of the things I'll say is that both the exercise and the nutrition fields are very young in research. So that's one of the reasons why you see, and I would think a lot of people listening will feel like there's constantly this flip-flop. Oh, this vitamin's good for you. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Too much of that vitamin's bad for you. Oh, eat kale. No, 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 don't eat kale. Because the research is young and we find out one thing about a nutrient or one thing about an exercise, but then, there's a myriad of things that are going on. And then we look at a few others and we go, oh, maybe we overemphasized that. So, once again, that overreaction in the short term and the underreaction in the long term. So that's another one that I think about when it comes to nutrition and exercise. And so the pendulum constantly is swinging. The ones that happened early in my career, which was a fairly big challenge, and I would say we're still kind of walking down this path, was in the 90s, there were some research studies that showed that stretching had no benefit for injury reduction. Like stretching your hamstrings doesn't mean you're not going to pull a hamstring.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so that was like, oh gosh, that was a shock. And then another one was stretching decreases power. So everybody stopped stretching, like in the mid 90s. And it was an overreaction in the short term to the research of a couple research studies. And so, in the long term, it's difficult to say, oh, yes, stretching reduces injury, but having a good range to move well in a lot of different motions and planes does minimize injury. If you lose a lot of mobility in joints, you're going to be having some aches and pains. It is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I would say stretching is important to minimize those things, even though again the research sometimes is like it's a little shaky on how to do that. And if you do it well, it's not gonna hurt your strength or your power or things of that nature if you're doing it at the appropriate times. So those are some of the challenges to the thinking I've seen and where we've come with them. Another one was
Hmm.
the like back in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. At that point, mostly what you had was going on was you had power lifters who were like the big fat ugly guys lifting a lot of weight, like squat, bench,
Yeah.
and deadlift. And you had weightlifters who were the guys doing the Olympic lifts, clean and jerk and snatch, and you had
Hmm.
bodybuilders. That was kind of the stuff that was happening then. So in the 80s and 90s, if you were lifting weight, it was usually one of those things. In the fitness world, it was mostly bodybuilding based. So it was
Yeah.
muscles based, right?
Yep.
Physique based. In the 2000s, then there was a big shift from muscles to movements. And the thinking was if you train muscles, you might miss out on movements, but if you train movements, then you won't miss out on muscles.
Hmm.
And so that was a big shift that made a lot of sense to me. There's no perfect paradigm,
Right.
but that was a shift that's kind of stuck with me. And I think in the general fitness world, the strength and conditioning world for athletes, the corrective world, I think that has still hung on, that really it's more about movement than it is about just getting pretty muscles.
What are the types of things you tell your clients when things hurt? Like when they're in pain. I know one of the things you like to say is don't chase pain, but like what
Yeah.
particularly what does that mean when you say that?
Well, the first response I'll give you, oh, this was back to one of the mistakes that I forgot to mention earlier. When people are in pain, one of the first things I tell them to do is keep training. Just don't train that thing, probably. So
Hmm.
when people get hurt, they will stop going to the gym or they'll stop doing their workouts. And that's an
It'll stop it
awful thing to
altogether. Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awful thing to do. There's a myriad of other things that you could do and probably should do that you've been putting off because it's not fun. But
Yeah.
all the little, maybe there's some extra stretching or some extra corrective pattern work or things, do that then. That's a big mistake that people make and something that I'll often tell people when they're hurt.
Hmm.
Um, the other one on that you mentioned, don't chase pain is so what I'll find a lot of times is somebody goes, I was like, oh, my shoulder hurts right here. and then they'll massage it. Or I'll give you a better one. Like everybody's neck hurts, right? We're at our computers all day, right? We're doing this stuff, and they go, "Oh, my neck hurts." And they go like, so they're massaging it. And they go, "Oh, it feels good when I massage it." But then 5 minutes after I'm done, it hurts again, and I got to do it again. So the pain's here, and they keep working the same area over and over again. And it's not always this way, but it does happen a fair amount of time where this is a cycle. This hurts. I'm going to rub it. It feels better for 5 minutes, and then it hurts again, and then I got to do it again. So you just keep chasing the pain. And when you, so that the kicker on that one that I'll share, like with the listeners, is if you get in that cycle and it's not changing, then let's go back to the definition of insanity, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's probably not working. So the issue is probably not here. It's probably somewhere else. So stop chasing this thing. It's not
Yeah.
getting better. You need to look somewhere else. And so it might actually be, and this was the one that you made fun of me for, the Instagram post I did the other night. It was stretching the front of your neck. So everybody's massaging back here and stretching back there because it hurts.
Yeah.
And the reason it probably hurts is because it's really long and loaded and overstretched all day long at their computer. And the reality is it's tight because it's overstretched. They need to get here, take some stress off of that thing, and they need to stretch this stuff in front
Mm.
that's overworking, and that will help get rid of some of that pain. So that stuff kind of can happen all over the body. And I think one of the simple ways to figure out if you are chasing pain is the I'm doing the same thing over and over and nothing's changing. It's probably not there.
I've heard something similar too. Yeah, because like if you're feeling the pain here, it would make sense to try to solve the pain here. We
Yeah,
typically don't think that it's going over here, right?
right.
But I have heard that. I've heard that the same thing with hips. Like if
Yes.
you have hip pain over here, it doesn't necessarily mean that's where you got to
Yep.
fix it. Pay attention to somewhere else. And
Yep.
usually, I mean, when we're not skilled, when we're not knowledgeable, I mean, we just do what, well, I'm feeling it here, so it must be here.
Yeah,
And there's a lot more going on in
absolutely.
our body than we realize.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's like sick? Is there a benefit to training while you're sick?
Mm. Here's the way that I've always done that one. So, question number one, does the thought, so you're sick, you've got a cold, you got whatever it is. Does the thought of exercise make you feel worse? If the answer is yes, probably shouldn't go work out. Okay.
Okay.
If the thought of exercise doesn't make you feel worse or, make you feel sick to your stomach, go try and do something light. If when you go try, you're starting to feel worse, back it down, do less. If it's still making you feel worse, not today. Go home and rest. If you can continue and you're feeling okay, then keep it at that level. And so really it's a really simple approach. And the approach is if you can move, go move as long as it's not making you feel worse. It's just a graded exposure. And
Yeah.
when you're recovering, you are going to go from a weaker place. Maybe you're at 50% and then 60% and then 80% and then okay, now you're 100% better. Well, when you're at 50 and 60%, you might be able to still move and do some things that are some value for you, but it is added stress to your system. So if you're pushing too hard, it will make you get more sick. So once again, don't be dumb, graded exposure, make sure that you do something that does feel good, and when you leave, you still feel good from doing that thing. And maybe it's just today's going to be a stretching day or a foam rolling day,
Yeah.
or just a really, really light cardio day. That stuff can have value for you. And I would liken this to, as my wife's an occupational therapist, they're getting people out of their beds the day of a traumatic surgery.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they're giving them pain meds, so they're not
Right.
in too much pain, but they are moving them day
Mm.
one. That's how
Yeah.
important, even in the hospital in the care system, that's
Hmm.
how important movement is. So just shutting it down completely until you're 100% better, it's not the best choice. It's a choice,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be the best choice.
Chris,
Yeah.
I'm going to just kind of turn it over to you. If there's anything else you feel like you wanted to communicate that you didn't, or if there's anything
Mhm.
that you're passionate about, that you just want to just take the next little bit, just to unpack something that's important to you, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then we'll end our time together.
The only other thing that's coming to mind right now, which I said I was going to circle back to earlier, and we haven't, and you obviously know my story, is probably some of the mindset stuff and the mental stuff and
Hmm.
the way that God works through these winding paths. I'll just bring that up real quick. So, but I'll share with your listeners. So, I sold my business in 2021. We moved to North Carolina in 2021. I wanted out, not out, I wanted to break from the fitness industry. I was burned out after 25 years. So, I stopped doing that. You and I had some long conversations, had a conversation with some other buddies. I decided to go straight into strictly sales, and I went into solar sales. I did that for th 3 years, 3 years, close to 3 years, something like that. Um,
Let's go.
and yeah, right. Went for it. 180-degree turn. I'm door knocking, right? I'm door knocking for a living, which is something I said I would never ever do. And right, of course, there's a long story behind this, but the short version is financially, in a variety of other ways. I failed pretty hard. I could not make a living doing it.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of pain in that, in failing there. Um, but that, those 2.5, 3 years were really good years. And I think that through that time, the Lord taught me so many good things. I'm really thankful for that time. Taught me so many good things. One of those has been the way that I think. So, right, people call this mindset, or I don't know what else they call it, but right, your mental game. I really have struggled with my thought life over the course of my life, and especially in my career.
Hmm.
And those 2.5, 3 years were invaluable to me for one, allowing for failure,
Yeah.
two, learning and accepting from failure, um, and three, being able to continue being in a good state of mind and a good place through hard times,
Hmm.
through hard times. And you've chosen the like choose the better story, right? How are you thinking about the way that you're walking through life as the theme here?
Yeah.
And I think that concept has been something that has been very um, heavy on my heart over the last few years, um, in life in general. And I think now I've been able to bring that back to this industry and talk with both on the client end of the spectrum, as well as talk about people that are going into business, what they can expect,
Yeah.
and the challenges that they're going to walk through. Um, I'm really thankful for that. I'm really thankful that process God walked me through to look at life differently and truly not be so much of a pessimist, which is who I've been for the majority of my life.
Yeah, that's good. That's really powerful. I think that I mean, you know this, and we know this. Like when you go when you fail, or when the struggle is absolutely real, and you mentioned it a few times about the grind, right? That this is an absolute grind. Sometimes when you're giving your all and you're not seeing the results, or you're finding yourself falling flat on your face, you know, um, our immediate perception of that, our perspective is that it's a negative. But I appreciate you bringing up, and hindsight's 2020. But you look back on
Yeah.
that season, and while it was a grind, while you didn't get out of it what you were hoping to, like you can appreciate that season because you've grown. There was personal development growth, there was
Yeah.
mindset growth that has propelled you to be, even more flourishing in your industry now, which is incredible. And I think I'll just mention in closing, Chris, is like, if you're listening to this and you're currently walking through a season where you feel like you're running into a brick wall every day, and the struggle is feeling like a grind, and you're not seeing the results that you want, and you might even feel like you're failing, um, I just want you to, I'm just going to encourage those of you that are listening, to throw those lenses off that you've been wearing, that's convincing yourself that you're a failure, or it's what you're doing every day is not making a difference, and put a new set of lenses on where you can actually have the mindset of what am I actually learning and how am I growing through these difficult circumstances right now. And it's
Yeah.
amazing if we put those lenses on and change our perspective, how much that allows for the fog that we've been living in to actually lift, and we can see that there's sun. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just
Yeah.
a little tweak like that of seeing the good in the middle of the fog or in the middle of the storm that is a difference maker. And so, yeah, I appreciate your perspective on that. Chris, how can people find you, like on social media? Where are you at? I know you've been doing lots of stuff, lots of content recently, just,
Yeah.
posting stretching stuff and health stuff. Where can people find you?
Yeah. My business name out here is Integrated Performance. My website is I Perform NC as in North Carolina. So that's my website. But then, I think I'm on all of the generally the major social media platforms. So on Instagram, Coach Ecklund. I think it's the same thing on TikTok. I just started that. And then on YouTube, I think I Perform NC is my handle there. Are there any others? Oh, I think I'm on Threads as well. I think it's probably Coach Eklund on there as well. So it's either probably like Coach Eklund or I Perform NC is where you can find me on most of the stations. But yeah, most of the content that I'm doing right now is related to places that people are broken. What kind of mobility, what kind of soft tissue work, what kind of corrective stuff can they do to help get out of pain and restore things, as well as just general stuff. People they're trying to figure out how to be healthy from home, or just wanting some good online resources for fitness. Those sorts of people, like, these are the things that you should have in your exercise routine. So most of my stuff is kind of geared toward those people right now.
Hmm. Right on. Well,
Yeah,
look forward to more of your content. Yeah, go follow Chris if you're not already. He's got some great value he's got out there every day. I'm looking forward to one of your videos going viral, either for really good reasons or for really
or really
unexpected
bad.
reasons. And yeah, just I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you spending time with us today and just bringing in, fitness is a really important factor of life. A lot of people just take their health for granted until they don't have their health anymore, and then they realize how
Yeah,
important it is. So yeah,
yeah,
if we're going to choose a better story, let's stay healthy right where we're at now, and even work on our health where we're at now, so that we can do the things later that we've wanted to do. Be
yeah.
really good. Chris, thanks again, and thanks again for keeping our friendship, even though I showed up to your trip one day, and I didn't bring a birthday present.
I
Man,
know. It's dedication on
yeah.
my part. It took a
It
lot to
really
hang in there
was.
with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for persevering and seeing the good in me regardless. But thanks for your time today,
Yeah.
everyone. Today's a day of opportunity. So put on your cape, dust it off, go out and choose a better story. Let's go.
A better life, better vision, what you wanting? Let's make it happen. Time to choose the better story. Come on. Choose the better story. Hey, choose the better story. Yeah.